Begin this morning in Ukraine and those efforts to get people out of the besieged city of Mariupol.
Just this morning, more people were rescued and taken out of the city. It's part of a broader mission by Ukraine's government and the United Nations. Now, the goal for rescuers is to reach Mariupol's steel plant, where up to 1,000 civilians have been taking shelter. As of this morning, nearly 80 people have been rescued from the plant. This comes after a surprise visit to Kyiv from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She's now the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit the Ukrainian capital and meet with President Volodymyr Zelensky. And new this morning, U.S. officials are planning another major trip to Eastern Europe, this one with First Lady Jill Biden. She'll travel to Slovakia and Romania later this week, meeting with Ukrainian mothers and children who've escaped their war-torn home. We have team coverage this morning. Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine John Herbst will join us in a minute, but let's begin with NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley in Ukraine and NBC News reporter Julie Sirkin. Matt, let's start with you. How are those evacuation efforts in Mariupol going this morning?
Well, we heard that, there are some evacuation efforts. I actually spoke with someone who I've been talking to, a fighter from the Azov battalion, who's in that Azovstal steel foundry. He's underneath it with all those civilians. He said that if the Russians keep their promise, that we could start seeing some people coming from Azovstal as early as today. Instead, here in Zaporizhia, in this parking lot, and we're here, it's like a big box store. It's a huge shopping center, of the kind you'd see in the States, just about outside of any major city in America. But this center for people who are coming not just from Mariupol, that besieged city, but from many other destinations. And here, just in the last couple minutes, we've had one car pull up. Now, I'm not with my translator at this very moment because really this did just happen in the last 5 or 10 minutes. But as you can see, this car has all the trademarks. They're speaking to the police officer here, has all the trademarks of someone, of a family who has come out of one of these areas. Now, they could have come from somewhere near Mariupol. They could have come from somewhere in this area, in Zaporizhia. They would still be having, as you can see, white flags on their mirrors, on their antenna. This is to show the Russians or the Ukrainians that they are, in fact, non-combatants and that they should not be fired upon. I got to tell you guys, we've been seeing cars everywhere we go that have been totally shelled out, that have been riddled with bullets and shrapnel, that still carry those telltale signs of civilian occupants, white flags and hand-painted signs that say Deti, Russian for children. And that's really sad when you see that, when cars that have that sign that says Deti on them that have been riddled with bullets and shrapnel, and we see that all over the place. This car seems to have gone away. Didn't see the rest of our media colleagues, of whom there are hundreds around here. We didn't see them flocking to speak to them. We can find out later who they were. It doesn't look like they were from Mariupol, and they certainly were not from that Azovstal steel plant, because everybody here is waiting to see people from Azovstal. But we are still waiting. We could see them later today, from what I understand. We might have to wait until tomorrow. Guys?
So interesting to see that unfold right there on live TV, Matt. So, Julie, I want to ask you, as this mass evacuation in Mariupol, it shows the magnitude of the growing refugee crisis from the war. And this morning we learned First Lady Jill Biden, she's going to meet with refugees along the Ukrainian border later this week. How long is this trip going to be? Who is she planning to meet with?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. First Lady Jill Biden will make only her second solo foreign trip, I should add, as First Lady. She will basically be taking a long weekend in the region, visiting Slovakia and Romania, two bordering countries to Ukraine, who have taken in hundreds of thousands of refugees. You see her schedule up on your screen. She'll leave on Thursday from Washington. She will meet with U.S. service members in Romania the next day. She will then go to the capital of Romania, Bucharest, to meet with U.S. embassy staff and humanitarian workers. Then she will meet with refugees along the Slovakia-Ukraine border, followed by a visit with Slovakian government officials. What is not publicly on this trip or privately known is whether she will actually visit Ukraine. Now, that's not something that we expect to know, even if she will make a surprise visit there. Of course, it's not unusual for first ladies to make visits to combat zones. Usually that happens when there are U.S. troops involved, but obviously an event, a war of this magnitude, has seen U.S. officials, from Speaker Pelosi to Defense Secretary Austin, visit the region in recent weeks, so the U.S. can continue to show their support for Ukrainians in this fight.
We know, as we mentioned this last weekend, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she became the highest-ranking U.S. official to meet with President Zelensky in Kyiv. So what happened during the meeting, and does it signal more U.S. aid, or that potentially President Biden will be coming to Ukraine?
Yeah, we were all surprised when we found out that Speaker Pelosi was in Kyiv. We only found out due to security reasons after she had already met with President Zelensky. She reaffirmed the U.S. support for Ukraine. She, as you mentioned, became the highest ranking U.S. official to make the visit to the region. Actually, she just wrapped up a visit with the Polish president as well, reaffirming U.S. support for Ukraine in this fight. Now, this comes as President Biden made that massive $33 billion aid request to Congress. So when Speaker Pelosi comes back to Washington, she'll have to work with Majority Leader Schumer in the Senate to try and get that through. It has broad bipartisan support. It's a big, big package, $20 billion, going to the military in Ukraine. The rest split between humanitarian and economic development assistance. Now, you mentioned President Biden. That's another one. I mean, he's still weighing whether to visit the region. We have not heard whether he has plans to do so. Of course, due to security reasons, we probably wouldn't know until the very last minute. But as of now, no plans to do that, Joe.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. And also thank you to Matt Browley joining us from Ukraine.
Let's now get more on this with John Herbst. He's the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine and a senior director of the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. Ambassador, thanks for being with us this morning. So let's start right there with Speaker Pelosi's visit. We keep mentioning the highest-ranking U.S. official. In fact, the Speaker of the House is behind only the vice president in the line of succession. To you, what message does this send that this particular person in this particular position has visited Ukraine? Also, what's the message to Russia?
Look, I'm delighted to see the speaker in Ukraine. It's a strong signal of American support to the Ukrainian people, President Zelensky. And of course, it's another caution to Putin that the United States is all in short of sending its troops to Ukraine to help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. That $33 billion package is a major new development.
And Ambassador, let's talk about what's happening on the ground. The Ukrainian army said that a Russian offensive along a broad front in the country's east has been stalling. Now, I mean, right now there appears to be no end in sight for this war, but is there a point where it becomes no longer tenable for Putin, not only financially, but because of the loss of troops when they're just not gaining ground?
We'll know in a few weeks if this second new offensive is going to work for Putin. Right now, it does not seem to be going very well. It seems to be stalled. They've made minor progress, but stalled across the broad front. If that fails, Putin faces a very serious decision. He's been calling this a special military operation. He can call it a war and conscript people across Russia for a great new escalation. I'm not sure he'll do that, but it cannot be ruled out.
Now, conversely, the U.S. has committed billions in Ukrainian aid. How long should our country be committed to funding Ukraine if this does really not have an end in sight? If, as you said, in the next few weeks, there's sort of this evaluation that goes on, does our support continue until this ends?
I think this is the only smart policy we've got. If Putin wins in Ukraine, if he succeeds in conquering Ukraine, subjugating the country, he'll go farther. And farther might well be our Baltic NATO allies, where we are committed by treaty to send troops to defend those countries. And those countries are far harder to defend than Ukraine. So sending even many billions of dollars to Ukraine actually is very important to American security. It's a good bargain for us.
Ambassador, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Here at home, the focus is on a key primary race tomorrow. In Ohio, a crowded field of Republicans, they're vying to fill the state's open U.S. Senate seat. The race is drawing some high-profile endorsements, including, of course, from former President Trump, whose influence as a GOP kingmaker is going to be put to the test. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has been following it all as part of our ongoing County to County series. He now joins us from Columbus, Ohio. Jesse, good morning to you. Quickly set the stage. What should we know about the top contenders and their campaigns?
Good morning, Joe. Well, the two top camps, J.D. Vance, who has former President Trump's endorsement, and Josh Mandel, the former state treasurer here in Ohio, are leaning into Trump ideas. So even though Mandel doesn't have Trump's endorsement, he's styling himself as a pro-Trump candidate. And while he doesn't have the former president's endorsement, he has a big name supporter of his own, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. So lots of national focus here in the Buckeye State right now.
So, Jesse, President Trump has often touted the power of his endorsement. He surprisingly endorsed Vance, once a self-proclaimed never Trump guy. So what does this race mean for Trump and really his political future, especially as a kingmaker?
Yeah, Joe, this is shaping up to be a legacy moment, and that's exactly what the former president's top surrogate, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, told me when we talked with him at a J.D. Vance event over the weekend, because he has put his thumbs on the scale here, but at the same time, it hasn't cleared the floor. Josh Mandel is within the margin of error up against J.D. Vance in the latest Fox News poll. So these two continue to go head-to-head. And even though Mandel doesn't have Trump's endorsement, because he's leaning into Trump's style, Trump's rhetoric, Trump's ideas, there's this idea that Trump could win even if his candidate doesn't. Here's what we heard from the campaigns over the weekend.
The name Trump is much more than an endorsement for you in this campaign, it sounds like.
Well, it's a governing philosophy. America first is a governing philosophy. When it comes to the economy, when it comes to jobs in our state.
We don't want a circumstance where the establishment could claim that they defeated Trump. So President Trump's brand is on the line, the MAGA brand is on the line, and we couldn't be prouder that J.D. Vance is a standard bearer for our movement.
And so again, Joe, they're framing this as a change of course potentially in the GOP, or staying the course, but a pivotal moment for Republican politics.
And Jesse, we talk about polls. Recent polls show about a quarter of voters there haven't made up their minds yet. So they're the ones who could swing this thing. You spoke with some of them. What are the issues that matter to them, and do these endorsements matter to them at all?
Yeah, the short answer to that is not really. They seem to be leaning more into policy positions. That's not to say that some aren't engaging with the policy positions coming from Vance and Mandel, but some of these voters we've talked to are tuning out the endorsements, whoever it is. And we've talked to people who are independent, people who consider themselves moderate, people who consider themselves Trump supporters. And pretty much across the board in those groups, in those cross sections, we've again and again heard people wanting to hear about specific issues that they care about. And just one other point I want to emphasize there about that quarter of voters believed to be undecided. That's from that recent Fox News poll. That number is virtually unchanged from a month earlier, which means that even after Donald Trump and Ted Cruz came in with their big endorsements here, about a quarter of GOP primary voters, according to Fox News, continued to stay undecided, which lends itself to that idea that the endorsements don't matter next to speaking to specific policy issues.
All right, Jesse, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And turning now to the latest in the fight against COVID, the FDA announced plans to meet over several days in June to consider authorizing COVID vaccines for children as young as 6 months. Those plans come as both cases and hospitalizations rise across the country ahead of the summer months. Dr. Amish Adalja joins us now for more. He's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Doctor, always great to have you with us. So what is the likelihood here for these vaccines with children getting approved when the FDA meets next month? What could their potential impact be on kids protecting against COVID? And for anyone who's wondering about that timeline, why is it happening in June instead of sometime sooner?
I think it will be a great thing when we have more people eligible to be vaccinated. However, if you look at the uptake of the vaccine in the 5 to 11 group, which is the next age group, it hasn't been really great. Maybe about a quarter of those children got vaccinated. So I don't expect to see a major uptick in vaccinations after this approval, and I suspect it will be successful. But I think it does help, especially with high-risk children. And the more vaccine we have in people, the better it is. And I hope that Moderna is ready even before June and the FDA is able to act expeditiously. I don't think they should bureaucratically coordinate Moderna and Pfizer's application. Whatever's ready should be reviewed when it's ready.
Dr. Adalja, I want to turn now to comments by Dr. Deborah Birx. She was on the COVID task force in the Trump administration. She had this to say about the possibility of another COVID surge on the horizon. Let's listen.
Each of these surges are about 4 to 6 months apart. That tells me that natural immunity wanes enough in the general population after 4 to 6 months that a significant surge is going to occur again. And this is what we have to be prepared for in this country. We should be preparing right now for a potential surge in the summer across the southern United States, because we saw it in 2020 and we saw it in 2021.
Doctor, do you share those concerns? Do you think another surge is likely given these mandates that we've seen rolled back and that immunity waning? And are you concerned about the severity, or are we getting to a place where these surges are easier for us to handle?
we're getting to a place where the surges are easier to handle because they're increasingly de-linked and decoupled from hospitalizations, meaning that the virus is facing a population that has a lot of immunity. Even if that immunity is waned and allows new variants to be able to infect people, it's unlikely to be able to cause enough illness that would overload hospitals again. So I think that means that we're in a better place. And remember, we also have tools like monoclonal antibodies and antivirals as well. But yes, we're going to see cases go up and down. This virus isn't going anywhere. And the key is to make sure that people are not getting hospitalized by using all the tools that we have.
Also, Doctor, we're now seeing countries in Europe roll back their travel restrictions and some of their mandates ahead of the busy tourist season. Is now the right time to get rid of these rules? How do you feel about that?
I think that when we're, just as I said before, when you're delinking cases from hospitalizations, we get a much more manageable virus. And I think we have to really think about a sustainable approach going forward with a virus that's always going to be there. It's not going to be eradicated. It's not going to be eliminated. So I think we really have to think about individual risk tolerance and individual risk calculation because we have tools to keep people from overloading hospitals. And that's always what, flattening the curve was about. And I think we're there in most of the industrial world where there's high vaccination and immunity rates.
Great information as always. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us.
Time to get a check on your morning news now. Weather.
Michelle Grossman is with us. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning to you both. And we are continuing to watch severe weather this week, a really unsettled week. We had a busy weekend in terms of tornadoes, and also we're going to see that today as we go throughout the afternoon hours. Taking a look at radar, you can see we're already seeing some storms, even seeing some snow on the backside of this low pressure system. That low pressure system is spinning right near Nebraska, also Colorado, and you can see that blue. That's where the snow is falling. Along the front, though, we're looking at heavy rain. That's indicated by the reds, the yellows, the oranges, and on the trailing end, we're seeing some lightning at this hour. So as we go throughout this afternoon and evening, we're going to be watching for 8 million people at risk for any sort of severe weather. Where you see the orange, that's your enhanced risk, and that's where most severe weather is likely. So Oklahoma City to Fayetteville, we could see hail as large as 2 inches. Tornadoes, some could be strong, some could be large, and winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. But really, this threat stretches from Texas all the way to Nebraska, over to Missouri, and parts of the Tennessee and Mississippi Valley. Now, as we go throughout tomorrow, we're going to include 6 million at risk. It looks like the threats tomorrow seem to be winds gusting to 60 miles per hour, damaging hail, but smaller, up to 1 inch, and the tornado risk is very low tomorrow. So that's good. That's the good news, because as we look towards Wednesday, it's almost a carbon copy of today. That threat stretching from Texas all the way to parts of Missouri, 6 million at risk. And again, we could see large hail and some tornadoes. Rainfall, we're going to be watching that as well, a flood risk due to excessive rainfall. Where you see those darker colors, the reds, the yellows, the oranges, that's where we're expecting the most rain. 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible. There's also fire danger once again, not only today, but tomorrow and also Wednesday. In the southwest, where you're seeing that hot pink, that's your red flag warning. So parts of New Mexico into the state of Texas. And we could see any sort of spark could start a wildfire. Again, that's today and also tomorrow. A seasonal split in terms of temperatures. So cold in the northern plains, Minneapolis, just 53. And as we look to the south, we're looking at 80s and 90s. Back to you guys.
All right, a lot to keep an eye on.
Yeah, 2-inch hail.
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay. All right, thanks, Michelle. See you in a little bit.
Sure.
And now, from sharp punchlines to celebrity appearances, this weekend's White House Correspondents' Dinner felt like a little slice of normalcy after 2 years of a pandemic.
Perhaps most noticeable, though, was the packed ballroom filled with unmasked guests, even as cases of COVID rise around the country. NBC News correspondent Josh Letterman has the recap.
For a few hours, it was like COVID didn't exist. More than 2,500 people, including President Biden, packed into a hotel ballroom. There were very few masks, no social distancing, but plenty of pandemic punchlines from comedian Trevor Noah.
Fauci thought it was too dangerous to come tonight. Pete Davidson thinks it's okay. And we all went with Pete. Okay.
Mr. Biden pointing out it's the first time a president attended the Correspondents' Dinner in 6 years.
It's understandable. We had a horrible plague, followed by 2 years of COVID.
You guys spent the last 2 years telling everyone the importance of wearing masks and avoiding large indoor gatherings. Then the second someone offers you a free dinner, you all turn into Joe Rogan. Huh?
President Biden poked fun at his own dismal poll numbers, now in the low 40s.
I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have.
Noah taking on the president over inflation.
Ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
The president's decision to attend raising concerns as new COVID cases are popping up at the White House. At this star-studded event, guests had to show they were both vaccinated and tested.
I guess that's as good as we can hope for.
Mr. Biden on the dais unmasked, but skipping dinner and staying mostly socially distanced, as journalists and the politicians they cover raised a toast to the First Amendment.
To the journalists and their families, to the people and the elected representatives, to the United States of America.
Josh Letterman, NBC News, Washington.
You were there? Had a nice time?
I did, yeah. It was nice. It was interesting to be in a room with that many people, but, you know, it was cool. It was a nice celebration of what we do, of course. Kim K was a big...
And, of course, then there's that.
...piece of conversation. Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson making their debut there, so that was cool. Yeah.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.